Now for a drug, the definition of a drug is a substance which may have beneficial, harmful, or intoxicating effects. And it is also not something that is exclusively a food. Okay, so it's going to rule out food-based substances. Now, the government has classified these drugs into 5 schedules according to how apt you are to become dependent on it, and also if it's used for medicine or not. So I'd like you to take a look at this diagram in your notes. We have these 5 schedules. Right, the higher the schedule number, so if you go down, right, the more medicinal it's going to be. All right, and the lower the schedule number, so if you go up, okay, the more potential you have for abuse or addiction. Okay, so for example, acetaminophen, ibuprofen, aspirin are all going to be Schedule 5 drugs. They're used in medicine frequently, very low chance that you're going to become dependent on those particular drugs. Right, but something like heroin, LSD, methamphetamine, cocaine, those all have more addictive properties, so they're going to be in the lower number schedules. Right, I don't want you to memorize like that Valium is a Schedule 4 drug, right? But I might ask you if I have, which of these schedules would have a drug that's more addictive? Would it be Schedule 1 or would it be Schedule 4? Right, you should be able to tell me that it'd be Schedule 1. Right, things like heroin and LSD, that would be more addictive. Right, now, drugs can kind of be categorized into 4 different types. You're going to have some other things like aspirin and NSAIDs that don't really fit into these, but most of the drugs are going to fit into these 4 categories: narcotics, hallucinogens, depressants, and stimulants. Right, narcotics induce a state of lethargy or sluggishness. They make you sleepy. They are used for pain relievers if you're using them medicinally, and they're going to come from the poppy plant. So a lot of these are the opioids. So for example, you have things like morphine. Right, the next type are hallucinogens, and these cause alterations in normal thought processes, perceptions, and moods. So these are, for example, like LSD. So, these are the ones where you hear like, a bad drug trip. Right, depressants slow down the central nervous system, so they mellow you out. You might hear that in terms of these particular drugs. So alcohol would be a type of depressant. We're going to look at alcohol specifically a little later on. Right? So hopefully you have never been around a drunk person, but if you think about it in the movies, they're very, they're uncoordinated, they're slur their speech, they might not think very clearly, or they're very focused on one idea. That's because their central nervous system is slowed down. They're not quite keeping up with themselves. Right. On the other hand, you could have a stimulant like crack cocaine. Caffeine would also be a stimulant. And this speeds up the central nervous system. So this can make a person very anxious. Their senses are very heightened. Right? They may react to sounds or to movement. And they'll seem like they have a lot of energy. They won't know what to do with themselves. I'm going to show you a clip in class of some rats that were used in a study under certain types of these drugs, and you can really see the effects of these particular drugs on the rats. So a depressant is really going to slow them down. Time kind of slows down your perception of it, and the rat that's on cocaine is kind of like all over the place. So you'll really see that when we take a look at that in class. And in terms of a poison, so this is kind of our second category, it's any substance that when taken in certain quantities can cause a harmful or deadly reaction. So it's really the amount of this stuff that you take. It could be man-made, right, or it could be from nature. So it could be natural or man-made. Okay, if it's natural, it's usually called a toxin. Right, and poisons can actually be useful for us in some regards. So, for example, bleach is a very useful cleaning product, but if it's ingested, it's not so great for your body. Okay, so it's only becomes harmful when it's ingested or inhaled. And that's really where these become a problem. Now, how toxic that substance is to your body is going to depend on how it enters your body, so what form, and over what time period it does so. So some poisons need, you need to be giving it to a person for quite a long time, or a person needs to be ingesting it for quite a long time for it to have any effect. Some poisons are very rapid, right? Some are not as toxic in a vapor as they are concentrated as a solid. So those are, factors you want to take a look at. Now, something as innocuous as water can also be a poison. Right? So this is a case of a woman named Jennifer Strange. There was a radio contest where if you would drink as much water as you could and not go to the bathroom, and if you could last the longest, then you would win a Wii. So this was a couple of years ago, and Wiis were like the hot item. So this woman, Jennifer Strange, entered this radio contest, and she drank all of this water. You can see here in this picture, right, that her stomach was, bloated from all of the water that she drank. Right, she wasn't feeling very well after, she drank all of the water. Some people had called into the radio station and said, "Hey, this is something serious. You shouldn't be playing around with this," but didn't really do anything. She ended up winning second place. So she didn't win the Wii. She won some concert tickets. Right, what had happened is that she had drank so much water, her body could not process it, and she actually died from water poisoning. Okay, so something as benign as water that you would ingest in enough quantity could actually kill you. Right, now, these toxic substances, poisons, might be the cause of someone's death, as in the water poisoning of that woman. It could cause different behaviors in people. And it can also explain symptoms. So if you're looking at a particular case, these drugs and poisons can lead to these three particular pathways. Now, in terms of how toxic, again, that poison is going to be to you, we kind of talked about this, but this is a summary. How much you get, how you take it, what kind of form it's in, all right, and how it enters into the body. Also, your body weight, your size, and also if you're male or female, is going to determine how toxic this is. Okay, so something's going to be much more toxic to a child with a smaller body weight, than a fully grown man. In terms of toxicity as well, you also might hear of something called a lethal dose, usually represented as L50, and this is the dose of a substance that kills half of the test population, usually within 4 hours. So it's the milligram of the substance per kilogram of body weight. I'm not really going to ask you, for the lethal dose of a substance, but you might hear it. I would like you to know how it's represented, though. We're really not going to spend a whole lot of time on this. We kind of talked about it. If you're looking for poisons, or if a poison killed somebody, there's some things you want to look for. Right? What form was it in? Does it have a specific color? Can you link it to a pill? Right? Does it have a specific taste? Are there any symptoms associated with that particular poison? Are there diseases that seem like it might be caused by a poisoning, but it's actually a disease? How do you detect it? So just some things to keep in mind if you're trying to figure out if it's a poison that killed someone. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the forensic autopsy, and then that'll be it for this video. And we talked briefly about it before when we did that first video on the medical examiner. during the autopsy, you're going to collect samples, if you can, from different tissues and also from different fluids from the body. So you're going to collect urine and blood, which we've already done some tests with those already. Stomach contents can tell you a lot about what the person ate, if they ingested anything. You're going to collect tissues that you can test for levels of different substances in there. And you can also collect the vitreous humor, or the fluid that's in the eye. So you would send those for testing, and get that information back. So it would be like those tests that we're doing in class. You can also look for some characteristic signs on the body of different drugs and poisons. So you can see if there's any irritation on the tissue, redness, rashes, things that might indicate they came in contact, with something, and their body had a reaction to it. Some of the drugs and poisons have characteristic odors. So some of them have like an almond smell, or a very particular odor. And you can also look for these Mies lines in the fingernails. Now, you might have some lines in your nails, and I don't want you to freak out that you have these Mies lines. These are for heavy metal poisoning. Okay, what happens is these thick white bands appear within the fingernail. All right, and it's a thick white band. It's not like a little streak across your nail. It is noticeable, these lines. So somebody last year freaked out. I was like, I have a line in my fingernail. I'm gonna die. I'm like, you're fine. It's okay. So you would look for these characteristic odors, visual inspection. Look for these lines, and also run the test to see what kind of information you can get back.